Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with us. I know you're incredibly busy. You're about to head out on a big tour. Literally, I think you're, what, about a week away?
Yeah, yeah. On Sunday, Saturday is the hometown show, and it's kind of a neat show actually. I'm just singing with a band for a couple songs. I'm doing a couple Pogue songs,
Pogues.
and yeah, kind of in celebration of St. Patrick's Day. Everyone's doing kind of an Irishy type thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's on Saturday, and then Sunday I'm in Minot, North Dakota.
Are you excited? How are you feeling about it? I mean, it's a pretty extensive tour, all pretty much all the way out throughout March, beginning of April, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you know a lot about Winnipeg where I live,
Mm.
but the average temperature in the winter is about minus 40 degrees Celsius. So any excuse to get away from here is well invited. So I can't wait. Not that I don't like it here, but I can't wait to leave, honest.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know much about Winnipeg, but when I think of Canada, a lot of places in Canada, I think cold.
Yeah, we have this ongoing joke that if you check the temperature that the Mars rover is posting on Mars,
Yeah.
often in winter it's colder in Winnipeg than what the rover is seeing on Mars. So we are the coldest major city in the world, I believe.
Wow. So, which of these dates would you say, you're most excited? Is there anything new, town-wise, city-wise, that you've not done before on this tour?
Yeah, yeah. There's kind of a handful of ones I'm particularly excited for. I mean, all of them, right? Any
Mm.
excuse to get on stage and make a fool of myself. But the first date outside of Winnipeg, Minot, North Dakota, I've never played there. Excuse me, and it's actually not a very big town at all. But
Okay.
apparently they have a pretty killer scene. And the day I'm hitting it is actually St. Patrick's Day, so I think the bar is going to do kind of something a little special. I think that one could be kind of a really good start to the tour. And
Excellent.
I'm doing a handful of dates kind of around the eastern seaboard. I believe it's Baltimore, two in Jersey, and Philly, with this band called Steve-O and the Crippling Addiction.
Okay.
And Steve-O used to be in a band called the Holy Mess,
Mhm.
and they were never that big, but they were like, pretty decent sized band at Fest and Pooza Fest in Montreal, and they were kind of a band I'm definitely a fan of. So when we were able to hook up those four dates together, I was really stoked to do those. And in Quebec, that place is really great. And the last tour, it just didn't really line up. Like I've been booking myself for God, since I started playing, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And last time it just wasn't really great shows. It was just a bad time to hit it.
Mm.
And this time all three shows lined up really good. So I think those are going to be good.
Okay, so you get to go back and kind of improve upon what happened last time. Guess make a better showing almost.
Yeah, yeah. Like I've been playing. I'm scared to say it because you might figure out my actual age, but I've been playing for about 20 years, and in that time, I've kind of found what works best for me is you just play as much as you can. I try to do 150 shows every single year, and in that in that case, when you get a couple of shows that just don't work out, or there's so many factors, so many moving parts, you could do everything right,
Yeah.
and the show just doesn't happen. And then you could show up late, on a show you booked 24 hours ago, and it's the best show of the tour. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. So
Mm.
to kind of accept that, I've just kind of took a shot at playing as much as I can and just making the best of every show.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, so you say 150 shows, so you kind of like, so that's like your minimum get. You want to make sure you're doing 150 a year.
Yeah, it fluctuates. Like for example, this year I'm doing a new record. So
Mm.
after this tour, I'm probably just going to do kind of handful local dates or things kind of not that far from me, and just focus on working and writing and just saving up for the new record. But last year, I think I actually did 160 something, so I broke my 150 minimum,
Oh,
and
nice.
then yeah, tacked on a few more.
I mean, you say that, and from what I've through cursory research, just the most basic, Google your name and see what you get. It seems that touring is basically a major deal for you. It's probably one. It seems like one of the most important things for you. Is that because it's more of a necessity nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I just love it. Being on the road just feels like the normal for me. That's when I feel that I'm free. I can just be who I want to be and live how I want to live.
Mm.
And then coming home and kind of doing the job and the home life and the cleaning up the house and the sweeping. That's the part. That's the challenge for me. So I think that's kind of why I've lasted this long, because I've definitely toured with people who just can't stand it. Like they really need that alone time in that space and stuff. But as you said, that's totally true. These days, it's with platforms like YouTube, you're available to the world, but so is everybody else. So
Yeah.
it's really tough to kind of, it's almost like winning the lottery these days if you kind of get discovered on YouTube, or maybe if you got a gigantic marketing machine behind you. But for someone like me, just kind of an indie musician trying to make a go at it, jumping in the van and playing show and show and show is kind of the best thing I could do to do what I do.
Well, you're effectively doing it all on your own, I guess, most of your career, right? I mean, have you had any relationships in regards to labels or anything like that?
Yeah, I've kind of a bit of both. Like DIY was kind of my philosophy for
Mm.
years, but I also at the same time don't want to not recognize all the people that have helped me. Like everyone in every single town I played, I didn't just call the bar and go there and play. Like someone booked the show, or the local bands brought their friends or something. Like I
Yeah,
think it's DIY. We should turn it into DIT, do it together,
yeah,
because without all my friends and people behind me, I would not be where I am. But in terms of kind of more like, I'm doing air quotes right now, staff of like who kind of does it. I do the management and the booking, and then Val does the PR from Distribution.
of course, yeah.
And between all of that, you kind of keep it small, you keep it manageable, and everyone is working as hard as they can, because for the most part, it's only me.
Yeah. You sound dedicated, though. I mean, you said 20 odd years, and you said about your age, but hey, you could have been on stage from 8 years old, and I'd only put you at 28.
let's pretend that. Yeah, that's what happened.
What about going abroad? You have been abroad, I've seen. You've been to England. What about countries you haven't
Yeah,
played? Where's on the bucket list?
so I had the pleasure of touring Europe 10 different times. A couple of those times was with my band,
Mm.
but independently, just as a solo artist, I've done it 6. And the 2 places I really want to go, Australia is on the list.
Oh yeah.
I've heard amazing things about it, and I came very close to doing a tour. And unfortunately, the guy setting it up had kind of major health problems, and he
Ah,
kind of just had to, okay, well, what can I do with my time? And unfortunately, his family and working his job came before my tour, which is totally fine.
of course,
But
yeah.
and ended up canceling that one. I haven't really had an opportunity to go back there. And the other place is Japan.
Oh.
And my old band, we were called High Five Drive. We were kind of a skate punk band in the early 2000s.
Mm.
And we were doing great over there. We had never toured there. We had one guy doing distro. We didn't even have a label. It was just a guy who had a website. And we sold over 500 records. And it's always kind of drawn me to go there. But everyone I've talked to, it's not quite the same as, like in Europe, you can kind of just book a plane ticket, land, and just start trying to do it.
Yeah.
North America, you can literally get in your van and just drive until you crash into a bar and then play the bar.
Mm.
And over there, you kind of have to be invited, or you need to know people to really, really make it happen. And I just haven't had a chance to really meet those people yet. But a new record is on the horizon, and it's on the list. It's something I really, really want to focus on. And also, my partner has some family there, and she really wants to go back, so that's even more reason to try to do it.
You get that whole combination: see family, have a holiday, play some shows.
Yeah, and I love like I'm really really excited about the culture over there and stuff, and I really want to check it out, because as much as I love Europe, the first time I went there, the different languages,
Mm.
but it's not that much different from over here, and obviously States and Canada. Like if you just got dropped in the middle of somewhere, aside from American flags being everywhere you possibly look, they're not that much different also. But I think Japan would be like a really really big cultural, like, holy moly, I'm somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it would be a hell of a culture shock, as you would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the new album, then, how's it going? And can you kind of share any details with us? I think I saw you were talking about a 2020 release.
Yeah. So the rest of this year has kind of been, after this tour, of course, has been allotted for just work, saving money, and recording the record. And I have some studio time booked in late September, and it's at a studio here in Winnipeg called Private Ear.
Mm.
And it's the same place I've done all my records, plus when I was in my band. And there's a local band called Propaganda. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No, name doesn't ring a bell.
They're huge in the punk scene, and anyways, they've done a couple albums there. This other band called Royal Canoe, which are doing neat things. They record there. It's a great studio, and the producer and me work well together. He is nicest dude ever. He's one of those people, like, you feel bulletproof in there. No matter what you're playing, you know he's going to be able to get the best of the best out of it. And
Oh yes.
and I'm definitely not a one take wizard or anything like that. Like, it takes me, a few tries to kind of get something decent. And he just makes you feel comfortable. He makes you feel like it's going to be the best record ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, take as many times as you need. The end result's got to be worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the time put in, and because I've recorded before, spent a 5-digit number, and at the end of it, the album just wasn't quite what we thought. Like, the pre-production was almost better than the album itself, and that was a terrible feeling. So,
Um,
so yeah.
So is it kind of like, are you constantly writing while you're on the road, while you're out touring, while you're at home? Is it just constantly writing?
No, I'm more of a person of, like, it comes in spurts, and some of the best stuff I write, I don't commit me. I'm not crazy, but it just gets beamed into my head. Like I read some of the stuff, like, I couldn't have possibly wrote that. There's no way that was me. Like, just sometimes an idea on guitar, and then you just start singing. All of a sudden you're like, holy crap, that's a whole song. Like, it just came out of me like that. And then a few other songs I like sometimes it'll be months and months of editing, redoing this, redoing that, scrapping this. But I think the best stuff I write, it was written in 5 seconds. It was just boom, there it is, the song.
So do you think you're a perfectionist in the sense that, like you said, you're gonna keep going over something? Are you a perfectionist?
No, to a point. I mean, if I don't like something, I'm gonna pick at it and pick at it and pick at it. But sometimes I kind of like more of a looser feeling. And the last album, we did it live off the floor, and then we overdubbed the vocals and some other parts, like aux percussion or some organ parts, etc. But kind of the meat and potatoes of the album was just all of us playing it and all together at once, and they recorded it, and it just felt really, really good. And there's little parts here, little pushes and pulls and whatnots, but I feel kind of like that energy is there. Like, it's something that if you do it one at a time, if you do the drums and you try to do the bass and the guitar and something, like, there's something that's missing. Kind of the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, or whatever the expression is.
Well, I mean, when I just went looking on YouTube and sitting and watching some of your videos, I was not so surprised, but it was nice to see. There's a real level of professionalism in regards to how it looks, how it sounds, and everything like that. Because it's YouTube and anybody can put anything on YouTube. It sort of. Do you think that came with age, in the sense that you were able to create those things because you've been doing it for so long?
I think I've always kind of been that way. Like, I remember when I was still in my first band, of a lot of kind of being stubborn about a lot of things, of like, we know this song doesn't fit, we can't do that, we can't do that. And I think as I get older, and the people I play with that are going to be playing on the album, I should mention quick, most of the tours I do are just by myself, which has been working great. But I do have a drummer and a bass player, and then a kind of a sax/aux musician that I play with at home that will be on the album. And playing with those people, like, it's so easy and it's so great, and you kind of just, sometimes you step back and you let it happen. At the same time, I'm not scared to say if I don't like anything and like something. And I feel like being critical is kind of that thin line, because obviously you can be too critical, obviously, to the point where nobody wants to trash everything. But at the same time, I think if you're not that way, some stuff can kind of slip through that isn't as good as other stuff you've done.
I think it's important, yeah. So, considering you say you've been doing this 20 plus years, and you've got a pretty high presence online and so on, you've clearly embraced the digital streaming age and been part of this change in the last 10 years, where YouTube and streaming and Apple Music and Spotify have grown into the beasts they are. Has that been easy?
I mean, I miss the record sales. Like, when I was in the band, not even trying, we were selling, a couple thousand of each album, doing, these piddly little tours. And now on a tour, I'm lucky if I can sell a couple hundred. And so, I mean, that part, obviously the financial part of it has kind of fallen out.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. I don't have to say that. But when it comes to streaming, you're not really seeing the revenue, but again, the accessibility. And if you hustle and more people hear about you, if someone has just on a whim, they kind of look up, oh, Greg Rekus, they have access to everything I've ever recorded,
Yeah.
just like that. And that's something that's really, really cool. And I think it gets a lot more people listening. Like, I don't know how many plays I have on Spotify. I think it's around 100,000. And to me, that's amazing. I can't believe like that many, people or whatever times of my songs have been played. And,
Yeah.
that's something like having, selling the CD, selling, like I was saying, selling a couple thousand. That's really, really cool. But that definitely isn't 100,000 pairs of ears or anything. So I think there is that advantage to it.
It's vindication that at least your music's getting out there if you're not, say, getting the physical sales in the same way. What?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the whole reason doing it is to get the music in people's ears. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say I don't want to, make a buck doing this, but the more important thing is to keep doing it, because it's a struggle. Like, it's, with the price of gas and a van constantly breaking down, like there's no shortage of bills to pay on tour, but kind of still being able to feel like you're accomplishing something, and that when someone hears the song and kind of, the odd email, or even just at a show, someone saying, oh, that's a great song, I really knew what you were talking about, or anything like that, that is the most rewarding feeling I've ever had in my entire life.
Excellent. I mean, on our point of view, from what we've seen, and over in our country in the UK, we've got a pretty decent scene, but it is pretty much entirely underground. And we talk to X amount of musicians and bands and so on, and it's always the same subject. It's about how you're surviving, how you're making money. People got their day jobs and things like that, so you can't do this. Have you been able to do anything in regards to, I don't know, maybe it be merchandise or so on, that's, I guess, like been able to control revenue stream in regards to what you're bringing in? Like, one of the things we've often talked about with other bands is like, okay, cool, you have a t-shirt line, but like, what else can you bring, say, at a show, other than just, here's the album, here's a t-shirt, that would spark interest, collectors almost, because that seems to be a big thing.
Yeah, for when it comes to collections, I mean, I guess I have vinyl, and some people are really into that, and that was probably the smarter merch item I've done in the last little while. But one thing I did that was really neat, I did jar openers.
Oh, wow.
And they are the most practical thing in the world. Like, you can use it to open literally anything. And I haven't found, it was the company that does it. I think it's somewhere overseas. And I wasn't sure of kind of how ethical of a company it was. And that's something that's really important to me. I've worked really hard to make sure that all my t-shirts are ethically made, locally made if possible. And I'm kind of arguing with myself if I should try to take another shot at the jar openers, but they went really, really fast, and people still tell me to this day how much they liked them. So that was maybe the most unique merch item I've had.
I love it. It's something so simple, but it's something that straight away people are going to snap up, because ultimately as well, as you said, price of gas, price of this and so on, that applies to everyone. So, they come to your show, and whether or not they can actually afford, say, a t-shirt or something like that, that will always be cheaper. So at least it's something. Yeah,
and the price point was perfect too. Like, it would be, everybody would grab one just if they want to help you out. Like, oh, here's a couple bucks and we'll take one of these. And it's that item that, they're going to have it probably for the next 5 or 10 years, assuming they don't lose it or something, or loan it to someone. And then they're going to have my face to open a jar every time.
So what's been like the best and the worst shows, I guess, you've done? I mean, I'll imagine with so many shows under your belt, and you've already talked about good and bad times, you've played to a room with 5 people in it and a room with 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, to think of the all-time best and all-time worst, but I can think of I played in Europe on the last tour. I got to open a show. It was amazing. It was with Propaganda, Iron Chic, and the Bomb Pops, and all of them I've met before, and so I was really stoked to get on the bill. And I go up there, and doors were at 7. I was on stage at like 7:02.
Oh yeah,
and there was nobody in the audience, 0 people. And I kind of chuck into the mic, and I strum the guitar and kind of should I even play? And luckily, a few people kind of started trickling in. And then by the third or fourth song, there was already a couple hundred in there. So it felt okay. That was probably one of my favorite shows, one of my best shows, but it definitely didn't start like that.
We're terrible for that over here, with doors opening and the first band being on it 2 minutes past, and no one's even through the doors getting a beer or looking at merch stalls. That's a common problem over here.
Yeah.
So, when you're not doing music, I guess, which doesn't come up much by the amount of work you do, when you're not doing, what do you enjoy doing? Like, are you because basically our website and processes three separate areas: video games, horror, and heavy metal, rock music, and so on. Does any of that really apply to you? Do you enjoy listening to music? Do you play video games? Do you watch horror movies?
Yes. So horror movies, I wouldn't say like I'm a huge big fan. I very much like them. And I do own a copy of Evil Dead on VHS.
Brilliant.
If that is worth any cred.
It's
video
a VHS.
games. I was actually quite the Super Nintendo game collector. I was up to 225 Super Nintendo games.
Oh wow!
And sadly, I had to sell them all. Which I won't get into my financial troubles as of recent. But let's just say I'm back on the straight and narrow. I'm doing okay, but I did have to get rid of my collection. But I do have a modded Wii that has every Super Nintendo game on it. And I also play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is my mobile game that I play
yes.
when I'm on the road. Yeah, it's a fun way. It's a good, like, I'm bored for 2 seconds game.
It's perfect. That's why there's 4 mobile fun games.
Yeah. I would say Super Nintendo was kind of my passion when it comes to video games. To me, it was the best system ever made. The games were just the right level of challenge, right level of fun, right level of simplicity. And you could turn it off. You could pause it. Like so many modern games where I sympathize for parents and children on both sides of the fence, because parents are like, we got to go now. Like, you have to go. And the children are like, you don't understand. I can't pause this. If I walk away, my character will be killed.
Yeah.
And I will let down my entire team that, counts on me in my guild or whatever. So,
yeah, I've got a 15-year-old son. Getting him off it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, like you got to plan like an hour in advance, I'm sure. Of like, okay, we're going to be leaving in an hour. Can
what
you
about
start
music?
When it comes to music, I really like records. And one of my favorite things to do as of the last 5 years or so is to go to flea markets and find those dollar bins of records and just kind of pick out the most interesting one.
Yeah.
One or two. And since they're $1, it's definitely affordable. And I kind of have amassed this collection of just like lousy records. But I have a 3-shelf system where the 2 bottom shelves are the lousy records, and if you listen to one and one is good, then it gets upgraded to the 3rd shelf where if I kind of want to listen to something. But what did I recently get? I was at the flea market on the weekend. I got the original soundtrack from TCB starring Diana Ross, the Supremes, and the Temptations.
Oh wow.
And this old Ukrainian guy let it go for $5. And then there's an album called Party Classics, and it looks ridiculous. It has I don't know if you know what Clamato juice is.
I don't.
Clamato. This is this Canadian thing, which I'm not standing behind this. I am not, just to go on record, I am not saying I support Clamato. It is basically clam juice, like a clam. Yeah, like with. I've never seen a clam and being like, I want to drink that. Like, to me, it's kind of a gross sea urchin-y kind of thing. None the drink called Clamato that you mix with like vodka and you put Worcestershire sauce in it and stuff like that, and you make this drink called a Caesar. So there's this record where I don't know if it's sponsored by Mott's, but I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. But yeah, so for a couple bucks, you find these amazing records. You put them on, and some of the time they're amazing. Like you get some of these diamonds in the rough.
Is there like one particular band or artist that you just, if you just need some chill out time, you just need things? Is there someone you like as your go-to? Wouldn't necessarily say your favorite artist, because probably narrowing that down is impossible, but just someone you kind of always gravitate to when you need to kind of chill.
Definitely, definitely the Get Up Kids, and in specific the album Something to Write Home About,
Okay.
which I actually have the album cover art tattooed on me.
Oh wow.
Which I don't have that. I only have like 7 tattoos. I don't have that many tattoos, but it meant so much that that I got it tattooed on me. And it's one of those albums that, like, I need to feel okay kind of album. If you have a rough show or just things are going rough on the road, I can kind of put that on, and just kind of reminds me that everything's okay, and like,
Yeah.
The world isn't as bad as I think it might be.
That's one of the great things about music, I guess, and it's something I guess you would hope that your music does for some people out there, which is those moments when you kind of just need to get away from life, and if you can lose yourself in a song or an album, that's amazing.
Definitely. That's in the 90s. I don't want to say everybody had a rough childhood, right? No one had it easy growing up, but I had some tough times, and music is really what got me through that. The 90s punk scene kind of made me I feel a sense of belonging. Like, this is where I need to be. This scene needs me, and I'm here. I'm ready to do this. And if I ever have been able to give that back to people, that's, again, the most rewarding feeling ever of, like, I did it. I kind of completed that loop.
Yeah, it's an amazing. I really hope that is the case as well. Like, that there are people out there who have cottoned on and gravitated to you, and too shy to send you a message and say something like that. But hey, you do a random show. Say you come back to London and do some random pub here, and someone walks up to you and says, I love your music, been listening to it for years. That it just must be amazing.
Yeah, like, it feels finally like all this hard work, because there are days where, like, I question a bit of, like, should I still be doing this? Like, it's kind of, you got to have your life in kind of a perpetual 20-year-old state to kind of be on the road this much at this level. And there are bands that are, making a little bit more, bands that are able to kind of, afford things. Yep. And for me, I've been able to do it this long. I'm very lucky. I have a job in audio at home, where it's kind of feast or famine. Either it's really, really busy, I'm working overtime, or it's dead, can go on to kind of fund this for years and years and years. But when it comes to things of, like, trying to afford a house, or have a reliable automobile or anything like that, like, it's just not on the budget. And I've definitely overspent. Years I was just like, I could just, do this, I could spend that. Oh, I could eat out today, why not? And now I don't think there's in the world that'll ever give me a credit card again. So those things happen. But
those things happen, yeah.
You persevere, right? If it's that important, you find a way. And again, I'm lucky that I've been doing audio my entire life. I have that job to fall back on. And you come home from a tour that didn't go so great, and I know right away, if I hustle, I can get a bunch of work and, kind of recoup those and get back to that zero mark to get back on the road.
Well, must take a lot, though, after that, say, to then be remotivated to plan another tour, I guess.
Well, I'm kind of constantly booking. Like, the only time I won't be booking is probably this summer, when I'm just focusing on writing and working. But come fall time, I'm already going to start to be booking, January 2020, assuming the new record's coming out.
Yeah.
And then, Europe, you got to book, like, practically a year in advance these days. It used to be 6 months. It's probably closer to a year if you want to get to the good promoters. So you're just kind of always constantly booking. So that's kind of keeps you going. You've already kind of committed to something. And I'm one of those stubborn people that no matter how lousy the show is looking, I'm still going to go and do it, because I never cancel anything. So I guess that's another lesson. Just be stubborn.
Yeah, I guess just constantly push, right? I mean, that's you have to, right? Because as we've talked about already, there's no easy way to make it in the business anymore, the music business, if you even can. The days of the Metallicas and the Iron Maidens are gone.
Yeah, exactly. Like, a lot of the artists that are making it really, really big, like, there's kind of some of the reason there are often a family member. I believe it's someone can email me if I get this wrong and they can correct me, but Miley Cyrus, I believe her godmother was Dolly Parton, or, like, close friend of the family. And again, or not Miley Cyrus. You don't email me that it's Miley Cyrus. I said the wrong person. But it is a really, really big female star that's name will come to me in 2 seconds when I stop thinking about it. And her godmother was Dolly Parton. Her friend of family was Dolly Parton. So there's always that connection. If you dig deep enough, a lot of these big, big stars, there is some type of connection where they got their break. And I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm not saying that they don't deserve that or they don't work hard. But a lot of people kind of on the outside, like, you know, I was kind of a middle-class dude from Winnipeg, you know, family, like both parents were teachers. Like, it's not really like I had a lot of opportunities to kind of dive into the music scene. You kind of just got to make it happen yourself in a lot of ways. And I'm very, very proud of how far I've gotten, what I've been able to do. But at the same time, you know, compare it to a lot of other bands, and it seems pretty minuscule in a lot of ways. But in the end, I'm really happy. I still treasure and cherish what I do. And it's still like a dream come true. I never thought I'd ever get to tour Europe, never mind tour it 10 times. So I am still very thankful of what I have.
One more drink, call it a day. Actions lead to consequences based on what we have to pay. You could say it's not fair.